overcast 56mm lens on an APS-C camera is the go-to for portrait photographers and a creative tool for street shooters looking to tell stories differently. But what happens when you push that classic focal length to f1.2? More light, more separation, more character. But most importantly, does it make me want to shoot more? That's what I set out to find with the Sirui Sniper 56mm f1.2. Sirui recently reached out to me and asked if I would like to test the Sirui Sniper 56mm f1.2 and share my honest thoughts about it. As always, when an interesting piece of gear comes my way, I said yes. Not long after, the lens arrived in my mailbox. Right away I noticed that this lens is part of a 3-lens series alongside with the 23mm f1.2 and the 33mm f1.2. Inside the box I found a small leaflet, the lens itself and a protective pouch. This lens has a solid presence with the Fuji X-mount lens I'm testing weighing around 419 grams. Its design blends a retro aesthetic with modern elements, giving it a distinctive look. The metal design feels robust and premium, something that I appreciate on a lens. However, the Sirui 56mm f1.2 doesn't feature weather sealing. The only physical control on this lens is the focus ring, which has a smooth and tactile feel. And finally, it comes with a sizable lens hood, which, as I would find later, is very useful. After getting this lens on my hands, I couldn't wait to put it to the test. I ran a few quick tests at home, but I knew that the real test would be out in the streets. And that's exactly where I took it. If you're enjoying the video so far, hit the like button and consider subscribing with the bell. I took the lens out in multiple occasions. I tested it in both bright sunny conditions and overcast gloomy weather. I wanted to see how it would handle different lighting situations and what types of photos I could take with it. On a clear sunny day, I didn't need to push the aperture to its widest extremes, but I did anyway, just to see how the lens would perform. Right away, I was impressed with the image quality. I started by focusing on high contrast scenes, photographing intense highlights and deep shadows. In more straightforward compositions, where I wasn't shooting directly against the sun, the lens performed well. Even at wider apertures like f2.8, details remained sharp and contrast was pleasing. Paired with the dynamic range of the X-T5, I was able to retain a nice balance between bright highlights and deep shadows. One of the standout features of this lens is the bokeh. Even at f2.8, the background blur remained smooth and creamy in most situations. The lens also did a great job balancing sharp and soft elements, and that's especially in shots where I framed subjects with strong rim lighting. However, to shoot these types of shots, I had to point my camera directly against the sun, and that's when I noticed something about this lens. When shooting against bright light, it flares quite a bit. In some cases, I use this flare creatively, but in others, I found myself cropping it out. It's worth noting that I was shooting these shots at wider apertures, which can exaggerate flaring a bit. So stopping down to narrower apertures like f5.6 could help mitigate it a bit. As for the autofocus, it performed on par with other lenses I tested on the Fuji X-T5. I was even surprised to see that very often I was able to lock focus accurately even when I was shooting directly against the sun. Overall, it was snappy and quick. Bright sunny days are only one side of the equation. The other is overcast flat light conditions, where I tend to approach my photos differently. On an APS-C sensor, the 56mm gives us a field of view more similar to an 85mm full frame. Paired with an aperture of f1.2, this setup should allow for strong subject isolation, scene compression and dramatic compositions. So the question is this: can the Sirui Sniper 56mm f1.2 deliver on this promise? Let's find out. I started by testing the lens on plain backgrounds and at different apertures to see how the image quality would change. At f1.2 I observed noticeable softness with visible chromatic aberration. Stopping down to f2.8 made a significant difference. Sharpness and contrast improved noticeably. By f5.6 the lens was very sharp and this level of detail remained consistent all the way up to f11. Because of the softness and the extremely shallow depth of field at f1.2, I found myself often shooting at f2.8 and beyond. The ultra-thin plane at f1.2 isn't ideal for dynamic street photography, especially when paired with the X-T5, which tends to miss focus a bit. That said, I managed to capture some of my most favorite photos at Aperture of f1.2, like this one with a stylish man wearing a black coat and a tilted hat walking next to the classic architecture of Cambridge. The lens and the camera locked focus beautifully, creating a smooth autofocus foreground and background. In this shot, you can really see how smooth and pleasing the bokeh is. The same applies to the second shot, in which I captured a woman sitting on a bench wearing a blue hat. She was sitting on a plastic bag beneath her, likely to stay dry after the early rain. But even this little detail was captured nicely. The wide open aperture at f1.2 also worked well for more controlled, dreamy compositions, where I could use foreground and background elements creatively to add extra softness to the image. At f2 and beyond, the image quality improved significantly. The photos came out sharp, and even zooming in wider shots, the details remained crisp and well defined. My editing style, in combination with this lens's natural color rendering, produced results that felt like my own. There is a lot to like about this lens. It has a solid build, a unique design, and an attractive price point compared to other f1.2 options. The image quality is strong, especially when stopped down, and the bokeh is smooth and pleasing. While it's not the sharpest shooting wide open at f1.2 and it has some flaring when shooting directly against bright light, these are trade-offs I personally embraced creatively. With its image quality and the character of this lens, it caters to portrait photographers and street and urban photographers too. For fast-paced street photography, it requires some careful handling, especially when shooting wide open, but it can deliver great results, in my opinion. So if you're looking for an affordable, character-rich alternative to the more expensive 56mm options out there, the Sirui 56mm f1.2 is definitely worth considering, in my opinion. Would I personally use it? Yes, I have been using it for a while and it has become an important part of my lens arsenal. What are your thoughts about this lens? Did you enjoy the shots I took with it? Let me know in the comments. Now, if you want to see how I mastered the 85mm full frame focal length, which is very similar to the 56mm on an APS-C system, click and watch this video next. That was all for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I will see you on the streets. Bye bye.